There is something extremely exhilarating about the beginning of any great adventure. And yet that adventure cannot be approached without great respect and a certain awe. The mountains to climb, the miles and the hours and the days that stretch ahead, slowly dissolving into what will soon seem to be an eternity. All the months of training and preparation work peak in the mighty sustained efforts of 2 men and their 9-member support crew, ultra-challenging their minds and bodies, their equipment, and their ability to work as a team, as one mind focused on the task of crossing the continent in the fastest, solely human-powered time in history. Both 2-time winners of the race across America, Lon and Pete were well-seasoned veterans of the grueling transcontinental event, well aware of the challenge and well-suited to rise to it, to discipline, to concentrate, and to endure the 3,000 miles from Huntington Beach, California to Atlantic City, New Jersey, through some of the most adverse conditions that either of them had ever faced. Leaving the Pacific Ocean behind them, they turned eastward on a route that would take them through Flagstaff, Albuquerque, Wichita, St. Louis, Indianapolis, Columbus, Lancaster, and finally, over 3,000 miles later, and hopefully in less than 8 days, Atlantic City, New Jersey. One by one, the riders who would come to help them launch their journey would fall away. Pete's 1979 tandem partner, Rob Teplin, would ride with them to the Arizona border with his wife as a one-woman support crew. As for their crew, Lon and Pete created a team made of people who had served as transcontinental crew members for each of them over the years. Each one possessed the essential qualities of a winning team member: a dedication to the goal, and an unswerving, willing ability to go beyond the call of duty. Their tandems were custom-built prototypes by Raleigh Cycle Company, featuring lightweight Easton aluminum wrapped with carbon fiber and then covered with Kevlar for strength and protection. From the pedals to the disc wheels to the hydraulic brakes, this bicycle was a state-of-the-art machine. Pete and Lon had been facing headwinds most of the morning, but they expected to find tailwinds after their long climb through Lamb Canyon. Little did they know then just how elusive and rare those favorable winds would be for them across the vast country that lay ahead. Near Palm Springs, they turned from their route along Interstate 10 and headed north and east on Route 62 toward Morongo Valley and Joshua Tree, 29 Palms in the Sheephole Mountains, to eventually link up with Interstate 40, which would take them all the way to Tucumcari, New Mexico. By early evening, they had merged with I-40. They had made good time in spite of the wind, but ahead, they would be facing a long, cold, and sleepless night. Their plan was to go this first 48 hours without sleep, and hopefully they would be somewhere close to Albuquerque before they took a break. By early morning, they were approaching Flagstaff, approximately 1 hour ahead of their projected schedule. And it was still early in the day when the mountains and the forests of northwestern Arizona gave way to the wide open sky of the high desert land. With its thunderstorms, and finally, a little tailwind. "95% of their diet would consist of Ultra Energy, a liquid food that would supply them with all of the protein, carbohydrates, vitamins, and minerals they needed. They would each consume an average of 20 bottles every 24 hours to fuel their daily 10,000 calorie requirement. A police escort awaited them that night in Gallup, New Mexico, and gave them a little boost in facing the long, dark road to Albuquerque.
Yeah, they know how to make you feel important in this town. They even arranged a fantastic thunderstorm for us.
As they left Gallup, they passed a grim reminder of the hazards of being on the road. By 4 o'clock Monday morning on the east side of Albuquerque, at the foot of the long climb they would face when they awoke, Lon and Pete stopped for their first sleep break. This would begin a regular sleep schedule in which they would ride until 4 a.m., go down for 1.5 hours of sleep, and be back on the road again by 6 with the sunrise of the new day adding an extra boost to their energy level. As the riders approached Texahoma and the long night of day 3, Lon would remember the heat stroke he suffered on his tandem record ride with Susan in 1983. Dr. Breedlove, one of the medical team members, thought he had just the right kind of medicine.
This, I think, will allow me to make it and catch them without any problem.
It'll also make you legal on the road tonight.
It'll make them legal. Well, they need an escort. They've had an escort 2 nights in a row.
That's right. We need another fireman's escort tonight.
I think we're ready.
All right.
Oh, they drive me crazy. We're off.
Okay.
You remember Texahoma?
Yeah.
Sure do.
big grain silo back there that where you guys took those pictures?
Okay, guys. Here's your escort for the evening.
What's that?
Come on.
There would be no setbacks tonight, and by 4 a.m., Lon and Pete had pushed on through to Kansas for their second sleep break of the trip. By 6 a.m., they were ready to face the sunrise, hoping this new day would bring favorable winds. But precious few of the hundreds of windy Kansas miles would be going their direction. It was to be the hardest, longest, and most discouraging day of their journey. In spite of the winds, their hard work and synchronized effort had again put them ahead of their projected schedule, much to the disappointment of over 30 Wichita cyclists. Their estimated time of arrival had been 8:30, but Lon and Pete were at least 45 minutes ahead of that time, so only a handful of the local contingency were on hand to accompany them on their escorted passage through the city. And what a glorious ride it was. On into the night of day 4 they pressed, making their sleep break near Iola, Kansas. By the next morning, they were rolling through the green hills of western Missouri. With just a little help from their friends. Their route along Highway 54 took them past Lake of the Ozarks and beautiful Missouri farmland to Jefferson City. They were clicking off 100 miles every 6 hours, and at this rate they calculated that they would make it across the Mississippi River before they slept. On the other side of this sunset, though, was another incentive, especially for Lon. His wife, Susan, had come out to join the crew for the next 24 hours. But there was no extra time out for this event, and although they'd had ample opportunity to catch up on their news from the van, they would have to save their hugs until the sleep break in Hamel, Illinois. As days go, day 5 would be hard to beat. Susan was with them, some other very good friends had turned out to ride with them, and they had a tailwind which allowed them to do a strong 25 miles per hour most of the day. As evening came, Lon and Pete prepared for the 6th night of their trip, looking forward to riding well into Ohio before they slept.
Flashlight?
It was near Sterling, Ohio that they stopped that night. As wet as it was, they still had missed the major storm front, which passed just behind them to the north.
Okay.
Next one's a little deeper, I think.
By the time they got to the Ohio River, their shoes were dry and they were ready to take on the hilly country roads of West Virginia. Barring any unforeseen complications, this would be the last of the days, the last of the nights, with only 1 1/2 hours of sleep, the last leg of an incredibly fast continental crossing, but one that for a while there, the crew had started to call the race across forever. Later that day, Lon and Pete began reflecting on their success thus far.
The important point, as he brought out, was to set a goal just beyond your reach, so that if you do meet it, you'll feel really good about the fact that you did your best, considering the circumstances, as opposed to just kind of cruising in, and then 2 days later, you start thinking back and you go, gee, we could have done better. There won't be any of that. We won't have any regrets about how hard we rode and whether, we made it within some unrealistically slow goal or whatever. We've done the best we could the whole way, and we're going to feel great tonight.
It's hard to separate single factors. You could take any one thing out of this trip, and the whole thing could have failed. But a major improvement was the liquid diet, and knowing how I felt on past events, my sleep schedules, afternoon fatigue, general alertness, things like that, on this trip have been superior to any other time in my life. During any other dozen transcontinental rides, and the only major thing different between this attempt and some of the other ones, besides doing with Pete, is the liquid diet. You've got differences in equipment and things like that, but you're talking, maybe 3 to 5% or something of that. With the liquid diet, I could say it's definitely up there in the 200 to 300%. And so overall, it really made a big difference how I felt.
At long last, they reached the Commodore Perry Bridge. On the other side is New Jersey, and just 60 miles to the Golden Nugget. They had calculated that it would be possible to arrive just before midnight, and now it was time to sprint.
It's good to see you guys, Hannah. Pick it up. Great. Want to say anything?
At one point in the trip in Kansas, we figured there was really no way we were even going to come in below 8 days. And we're almost ready to go and start over again. You know, the weather was so bad. But anyway, we just kind of kept plodding along, and things worked out better the last 3 days. And we were able to squeak in here just under the 7-day, 15-hour time limit.
Okay. One of the things that was really impressive with this year for this event was all the support we got from the people along the way. And not only our own crew, but people that just came out to meet us. And I don't know how they found us, most of them. There were people that drove 200 miles and then somehow found us out in the middle of Arizona while they were cruising down the freeway. And they'd park their truck, grab the bike out of the car, and come chasing down after us. And usually it was really funny, too, because they'd be going about 35 miles an hour. They'd get ahead of us, you know, and then be waiting for us as we came along, only they were pulling away. They get so excited because they thought that we'd just go screaming by and they wouldn't even be able to hold on. But, you know, we were just keeping a nice steady pace, and we were able to talk to almost everybody that came out, and we really enjoyed those conversations. And we had a lot of people that came out in the middle of the night when we really needed it. We were, you know, talking to each other. Lon and I shared all our life stories in the last 7 days, and well, more than once actually, because you know, we ran out of them, and then we had to start over. Yeah, when things got really bad, and then we had these other people come out, and so then we had them tell us their life stories so that we could, you know, keep things going, keep things a little stimulating at nighttime. But all in all, we had a really good trip, and it's just really good to see everybody that came out here tonight. We really appreciate you coming out and standing there. Okay.
Yeah.